Ray J was the last person to see her alive. He let the dealer in, but she was sober, right? But he let the dealer in that gave her the shot. I feel like anything with her name on it is strictly for the purposes of financial gain for those who have access to her estate, including Clive Davis.
He needed her back, but he needed her back and under his control. You wanna know what Clive Davis did for Whitney Houston?
Singer Jaguar Wright is at it again, and as in her usual combative mood, she's not holding anything back, spilling hot tea that has scalded a few celebrities. The laconic singer, who is known for her explosive revelations, has opened up another can of worms, revealing the slimy, grimy, dark side of the music industry. Her latest revelations have added another layer of complexity to the rumors and conspiracies surrounding the demise of America's darling girl, Whitney Houston. Wright, whose favorite subjects are Jay-Z and Diddy, has set her sights on fellow singer Ray J and his role in the passing of Whitney Houston. How did Jaguar Wright connect Ray J to the demise of Houston? And which other celebrities did she implicate in her hour-long expose? Sit back as I regale you with Jaguar Wright's recent revelations and take you back into history to examine the circumstances surrounding Houston's death.
Ray J was the last person to see her alive. He let the dealer in, but she was sober, right? But he let the dealer in that gave her the shot.
If Diddy's recent woes and exposés have taught us one thing, it is that the music industry, aside from the bright lights, the glitz, and the glamour, has a rather dark part that's the life out of its patrons. So many people have sacrificed a lot for the industry but have been left empty-handed and shortchanged because some elites and puppeteers are taking advantage of them. The exploitation appears to take the form of mentorship, which later metamorphoses into a giant monster that devours the mentees whole. This is why a few celebrities like Jaguar Wright have decided to expose the ills of the industry so that the exploiters would be brought to book. They also aim to enlighten and educate new and upcoming artists about the dangers of the industry so they are prepared. Jaguar's explosive revelations have led her to allege some wild stuff about Diddy and Jay-Z. This time, her spotlight is on the R&B singer Ray J for the alleged role he played in the demise of Whitney Houston. During one of her interviews, Jaguar Wright insinuated that Ray J was paid to put an end to Whitney Houston at the hotel. Now, this is pretty wild, given that no major news outlet has ever carried any news of Ray J in or around the hotel in which Whitney passed away. The closest Ray actually was to the scene, as carried by the major tabloids, was on the ground floor of the hotel when a team of policemen and paramedics stopped him from seeing Whitney. However, Jaguar Wright seems to have a different version of the events surrounding the singer's demise, and in her version, Ray J had a hand in it. Narrating her story, she claimed that Ray J was the last person to see Whitney after some dealer had walked in to supply her with goods. So it was possible the One Wish singer dealt the final blow that put Whitney to permanent sleep before putting her face first in the tub. His goal was to make it look like the demise of the I Will Always Love You singer looked like it was an accident. Then later, Brandy walked in and saw Houston's lifeless body but didn't do anything because she had pledged allegiance to Clive Davis. Her narration alleged that Clive was the mastermind of Houston's demise because 2 days prior, he had had a fight with her in the presence of Houston's daughter, Bobby Christina. She didn't narrate the cause of the fight though, but trust conspiracy theorists to connect a few dots and give a succinct picture of what happened that night. Interestingly, Jaguar Wright isn't the only person to have officially questioned the official report of Whitney's demise. According to a private investigator, Paul Hubel, Whitney Houston owed a lot of money to some lords, and they sent 2 guys to teach her a lesson. He continued that those guys accidentally cut Whitney's life short during a scuffle, leaving her face down in the tub. Though Jaguar Wright largely agrees with that narrative, she thinks that Ray J was somehow involved, and probably was paid by Clive Davis to commit the dastardly act. The private investigator pointed to some incidents in the official coroner's report as justification for his assumptions. For example, the coroner's report indicated that Whitney's hands and arms showed some signs of struggle, which Hubel interprets to be a scuffle between her and her assailants. He also claimed that the water in which the singer accidentally drowned was still hot at the time the paramedics reached the scene, which is suspicious. Thus, he deduced that the water was sizzling hot before the singer passed away, and that not even a person high on cocaine would attempt to sit in that water. Finally, he pointed to the scalding marks at the lower back of Whitney as proof of the water's high temperature at the time of the singer's passing. However, he stopped short of naming anyone as the mastermind. Rather, he blamed the lords for the singer's singer's passing. However, as we've already indicated, Jaguar Wright thinks the singer was assassinated by Ray J under the direction of Clive Davis. And here's why. She thinks that Whitney was more profitable to Clive Davis when she was unalive than alive, and that Ray J fell for Clive's promise of reviving his music career. At the time, Ray J was in a relationship with Whitney, although he was way younger than her. The age difference was 18 years. Thus, many fans suspect Ray J was in for the money, not for real love. They felt that the young man, who was in his 30s at the time, was taking advantage of Whitney's vulnerability. The two met when Whitney was reeling from a bitter divorce with her ex-husband, Bobby Brown. The prying cameras of paparazzi captured them on a few dates at high-end restaurants and big programs, but they denied that they were an item. Instead, they preferred the just friends tag so they could continue to enjoy their romance away from the sharp lenses of journalists. Around the same time, Ray J was noted for the sensual videotape with Kim Kardashian that brought her into the spotlight. Ray was a struggling musician then, having released a couple of songs and albums, but none hitting the heights they were expected to. So many fans thought that Ray's entry into Whitney's life was to revive his career and bring attention to himself, especially after the debacle of the sensual video with Kim Kardashian. Others felt that Ray was planted by Clive Davis to play a sinister role in the whole drama. As I stated earlier, Ray was down on his luck and could do anything to survive the tough world of being a musical artist. Thus, it is possible he accepted the job from Clive Davis with the promise that he would get international exposure and eventually some money to get his career going. So, the fans claim that the young Ray J found a way of planting himself in the life of Whitney. Many even blamed him for greatest love of all singer on an accusation that he denied vehemently. That same accusation was leveled against Bobby Brown, Whitney's ex-husband, throughout their tumultuous marriage, which often angered him. His ex-girlfriend, Karine Steffans, once told of an episode where Bobby got angry because of the constant connection to Whitney's use. Bob's big thing was everyone blamed him for her downfall, but when he met her, she was already using He always felt very angry about that. He told me what everybody saw wasn't the real Whitney. He always said her private persona, which you saw on reality show being Bobby Brown, was who she really was. Anyway, Ray's alleged love affair with the I Look to You singer continued, with the pair spotted 8 days before Whitney's demise at the hotel. According to Deep Throat sources, both Ray and Clive allegedly planned to have Ray distance himself from Whitney a week before they carried out their dastardly act. This move was to avoid suspicion when the deed was finally done. They co-signed Jaguar Wright's explaining that Ray sneaked into the hotel unnoticed and pretended to come spend some time with When You Believe singer. Ray then allowed the dealers that the private investigator spoke about into Whitney's room, and they beat her up. When they realized she was far gone, they arranged the scene to make it look like the singer had taken her own life and sneaked out of the hotel. Ray J then made it back to his home in time before Brandy got to the venue in the company of Whitney's assistant. Then, when he heard the news of his lover's demise, Ray J rushed from his house back to the crime scene, pretending to care for Whitney to fool everybody who was watching. All this while, Clive Davis was having mad fun with his friends and industry colleagues at the same hotel in Beverly Hills. While his mentee was struggling for her life, the mentor was partying the evening away. This raised many eyebrows, with fans wondering why Clive would be partying while Whitney was being assassinated in the same venue. Thus, they concluded it was perhaps a celebratory gesture to celebrate the millions of money that was about to be made. Fans knew that Whitney's demise could evoke sympathy and empathy among the general populace, causing them to patronize her songs. And they were right. Whitney Houston's demise evoked a sense of sympathy in millions of fans, causing them to patronize her album. The sales generated for Whitney's estate, and ultimately, Clive Davis ran into millions of dollars. Some tabloids argued that the money Whitney's estate made from the singer's demise was more than all she made when she was alive. Clive Davis's alleged plan had come to fruition. He managed to recoup all the money he spent on her when she was alive, having rented the hotel suite for her the night she was unalived. Ray J also reportedly received his cut, which he purportedly used to revive his career. 5 years after Whitney's demise, Ray J gave an interview that shocked many fans. His interview sort of lent credence to the reports that he had a hand in the I Look to You singer's demise. In an interview with VH1 in 2017, the R&B singer claimed that he blamed himself and was accountable for Whitney's passing. At the time, he was participating in the UK reality TV series Celebrity Big Brother, together with singer Stacey Francis, who had had a public feud with Whitney before her death. The two celebrities had a few tense moments between them whenever they crossed paths on the reality TV show. Speaking in the confessional about the tension between him and Stacey, Ray J claimed that they had buried their differences long before Whitney passed. Therefore, there was no tension, as speculated in the media at the time. However, he blamed himself for whatever happened to Whitney on the night of her passing. He told Big Brother, "Stacey and we had a conversation about what happened with Whitney Houston before she passed. I never talk about it, but it was something I felt she wanted to talk about, and it was the right time, so we talked briefly about it, and I told them how I felt, how I blame myself on a lot of stuff." He raised more eyebrows when he claimed that media houses offered him millions to spill the secrets around the music icon's demise, but he turned them down. "I had so many people calling me offering millions of dollars to have an interview. I was like, I don't need the money. It's not good money. That's just not right. My karma would be bad." Did you catch the last sentence? The singer left a cryptic message when he claimed that his karma would be bad if he ever leaked the secrets surrounding the legendary singer's death. Fans became more than convinced that Ray J knew more than he was telling, and that Whitney's ghost was probably haunting him. Interestingly, Ray J didn't end there. He still insisted to Stacey during the show that everything was his fault. "Nobody can explain. It's all my fault. All of that happened. It's all my fault." Stacey also seized the opportunity to clear the air on her public fallout with Whitney days before her demise. At the time, Whitney's sister, Pat Houston, had accused Stacey of stalking the "I Will Always Love You" singer. Explaining what happened, Stacey said it was a coincidence they all met at the said club and that she had no malicious intent. She explained to another housemate that Ray J was at the club and knew what happened, but didn't stand up for her when Pat Houston threw her to the When Whitney Houston's sister Pat went on the Oprah show and said I was stalking Whitney Houston in the club, I was not. We were all standing there talking and having a good time. He know that. He know the events of the whole night. After Ray J's spontaneous confession, many fans began to wonder why he was afraid to spill the beans concerning what actually went down that night. They began connecting a few dots in past happenings and concluded that Clive Davis might have bought his silence. Plus, seeing how evil the man can be, Ray J thought it wise to keep to his end of the bargain to avoid ending up like the "I Look to You" singer. Now, all these accusations might seem made up and preposterous to you, but if you consider a few of Clive Davis's past shenanigans, you might come to the same conclusion. First, many fans believe that Clive Davis likes to force his artists to do his bidding. Anyone who fails to fall in line is punished into obedience. A typical example is Phyllis Hyman, who suffered the brunt of Clive Davis's wrath because she refused to be controlled by him. When Clive's Arista Records absorbed Buddha Records, the label to which Phyllis was signed, he took a special interest in the burgeoning talent and wanted to turn her into a global star. Thus, he charted a course for the singer that would see her at the top of the food chain in a few years. However, Phyllis was a strong-willed lady who didn't like to be dictated to, especially when it didn't align with her personal goals. Clive Davis wanted Phyllis to ditch soul and R&B for pop music because, in his estimation, no R&B or soul singer's songs could make it to the top 40. Moreover, a majority of the audience who were white preferred pop songs to R&B, so pandering to them would put Phyllis on the pedestal of stardom. However, Phyllis didn't buy into that idea. She felt that singing pop instead of R&B would be tantamount to giving up her identity as a black woman. Moreover, she was an activist championing the course of blacks in the music industry. Thus, it would have been a big betrayal for her to switch from soul to pop. So, she refused Clive Davis's decision. But that didn't deter the music mogul. He suggested that Phyllis ditch her iconic hats and long dresses that had become part of her image for a more sensual outlook that would appeal to the white males. He even told the singer to dye her hair blonde to appear more attractive. Once again, Phyllis stood her ground, refusing to ditch her looks just because some men were dying to see her thighs. Her strong will, coupled with her unrelenting spirit, led to several bust-ups between her and her label boss, Clive Davis. But the best was yet to come. A few months into her tenure with Arista Records, Phyllis wanted to pursue her other passion, acting. So, he informed her boss that she was going to audition for the Broadway musical Sophisticated Ladies. This request angered Clive, as he felt that it would derail his plans of turning her into a global star. He felt that acting was just an unwelcome distraction, and thus, he forbade her from auditioning. But Phyllis went anyway. She knew she had it in her to nail a spot in that musical, and she wanted to explore it. She attended the audition and won the role. This annoyed Clive Davis, who decided to punish Phyllis Hyman for disobeying all his rules and refusing all his suggestions. He refused to promote all of her songs and albums and relegated her to the back burner. He shifted his attention to other artists on the label, including the precocious 19-year-old Whitney Houston. Phyllis performed exceptionally well in the musical, winning a Tony Award in the process, but musically, she was bankrupt. Initially, she didn't care, but gradually, Clive's mafia tactics began to take a toll on her. Around the same time, she was enduring a difficult marriage, as her husband, who also doubled as her manager, was pushing for a divorce. The husband, Larry Alexander, wanted to start a family, but Phyllis felt it wasn't the right time. She didn't want to be an absent mother who would allow another woman to raise her children, so she purportedly terminated 2 pregnancies. Sadly, the divorce was finalized in 1982, pushing her to the brink of despair, desperation, and depression. Phyllis then took to numb the pain of being punished at her label and the emotional trauma from the divorce. She was finally released from the label when her contract ran out, but the harm had already been done. Hyman wasn't the same again. She signed to another record and tried to come back, but her attempts were met with relative success. She blamed it all on Clive Davis when she wrote, "Clive Davis taught me to never be afraid because I was so terrorized by him. Whether he meant to do it or not, I'll never know. But he sure taught me that if you try to terrorize me again, well, we can't say that on public radio. What I might do to someone who tries to hurt me like that again in this business, I'm not having it. I should be respected as I respect, and I will not have someone try to ruin my spirit and ruin my career. If Clive Davis, if his plan was to destroy my career, it didn't work." Interestingly, Hyman isn't the only celebrity to have accused Clive Davis of ruining her career. A few years ago, a member of the all-female band TLC recounted an incident when they held Davis at gunpoint to give an account of where their money went. Speaking to Monique on her eponymous TV talk show, Tian T-Box Watkins explained that she and her bandmates were tired of constantly being used but broke. The group felt that Arista was not giving them their fair share of profits from their 1994 album, Crazy Sexy Cool, and the courts were quite slow, so they took matters into their own hands. So they hatched the diabolic plan of pulling a on the label boss to force the truth out of him. Watkins told Monique, "We held the record company, including founder and president Clive Davis, hostage with bullets because TLC had generated on Crazy Sexy Cool $75 million and they gave us $50,000 apiece, and I was like, what the hell?" So of course, Lisa Left Eye Lopes was the ringleader. We had a limo driver and he was the getaway car. They would have gotten the results they wanted if it wasn't for Diddy, who saw them earlier and snitched to Clive Davis about the girl's intent. She continued, "We got up there and held everybody hostage, and Puffy was the one that snitched us out. He caught us because we kicked him out of the meeting. We interrupted Puffy's meeting. We were like, sorry, we really got to handle this. We were getting sick and sweating, really working hard for this money, and wanted to know who the hell had our check. L.A. Reid, who was then Arista's CEO, said Clive did, so that's where we went. They eventually settled the issue and got some money from the label's boss, but according to them, he found a way of recouping all the money he gave them. They did give us some money, but they still took it back and recouped it. You live and learn in the business. It worked out well. We didn't go to jail, thank God." TLC's issues with Clive Davis gave fans a glimpse of how record labels strip their artists of their hard-earned cash and only pay them peanuts. It explains why Michael Jackson had problems with his label in the past and openly called out his label boss, Tommy Mottola. It also explains why a lot of the new artists these days are reluctant to sign on to labels, especially after going over the fine print. However, that would be another discussion for another day. Finally, it shows us why Whitney Houston passed away penniless, even though she had been singing virtually all her adult life. The song Stress's song sold over 30 million copies and remains some of the best-selling songs of all time. Even if we are to believe the rumor that she used all her money on it still doesn't justify where all the money went. Most artists do have been arrested on multiple occasions for DUI and possession, but how many of them are dead broke and asking for $100 handouts? We can all mention several musicians who passed away as a result of a overdose, but were still wealthy at the time of their demise. This is why fans think that there's more to the Whitney Houston-Clive Davis story than the tabloids are telling. It seems Phyllis Hyman foresaw how Clive Davis was probably going to cheat her in the end if she had folded to his demands. That was why she told him no. Maybe she had gone over the contract details and didn't see how all the changes Davis was suggesting would benefit her in the long run. So she refused to cooperate. Whitney, on the other hand, was young and naive and didn't know exactly how the industry worked. Sadly, there was no one to teach her too, as the elites allegedly took advantage of her talent to enrich themselves to her detriment. All Whitney wanted to do was sing and entertain her fans, so she had little regard for the business side of it. She probably trusted people like Clive Davis to look out for her and ensure that she would be financially stable, but that didn't happen. Instead, the singer was betrayed and ripped off her hard work and her sweat. Many fans think that the story was cooked to make it look like the singer was an irresponsible addict who spent all her fortune on. Mind you, they are not saying that the singer didn't do, but are claiming that she didn't spend all her money on procuring them, as the media wants fans to believe. And when they realized that she was washed up and wouldn't be profitable anymore, she was allegedly eliminated to raise more money for the elite. In December 2022, Clive Davis and a few others released a biopic detailing the public and private lives of Whitney Houston. It was designed to commemorate the achievements of the singer, but Jaguar Wright thinks otherwise. She feels that Clive Davis produced the movie to line his pocket with more cash. She explained that the legendary music producer didn't give two hoots about Whitney's legacy. All he cared about was money, which is why he allegedly had her eliminated in the first place. Unfortunately for Ray J, he was just a conduit designed to carry out Davis's purported evil schemes. On this note, we bring down the curtains on today's episode. Thanks for watching.